right, hello and welcome to the Grimm Times podcast. This is episode number 15. I've been waiting to do this episode for a long time now. I finally got him on the show. Carl is with me.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I met him at work. One of the few good things to come out of the Cliff House. And we are very like-minded, it turns out. And I used to think I was smart until I met him. So I'm going to bring him on the show and have him kind of talk about some of the things that he really has gained a lot of information about over the years. Today, I think we're going to start out talking about space travel and the theories behind it, the physics behind it, pretty much anything in that area. I mean, as you know, well, I'm a firm believer in extraterrestrial life, and to have this sort of life and to have them visit us, they have to have some means to get here. So I'd like to start off just by getting your thoughts on space travel, the kind of logistics of it, really. I mean, how you get from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time, and how it can be done.
Right, and that's an incredibly difficult task because really, when people think about space travel, they want faster and faster speeds. But with modern science, we know that it doesn't matter how fast we go, it's going to take us eons to get to the places that we want to go as a race. So, what you have to think about is time and space mixed with speed. And what I mean by that is the theory of relativity. And so, the theory of relativity is basically saying that when we're traveling at high speeds, time is going to be going slower for us than it is for the rest of the universe, if you will. The only way that aliens could be getting here in a logistical manner that would work and be viable is either if they have some type of cryo sleep, which a lot of science fiction movies have, kind of branched off of, or quantum physics. And what I mean by that is all things related to the smallest molecular level, because basically force is energy.
Let's talk about one thing in particular. With you were talking about speed, and even if you go at these amazing speeds, you got to think about how if you're in a ship that is made of matter, it's got physical form, basically, is what I'm trying to say. How are you going to get through space when our equipment is out there in space, and if a little pebble comes along going at the millions of miles per hour that they're going, or however many, I don't know if that's totally correct, but with them going that fast, a little tiny pebble will tear a huge hole in the side of your ship. How are you going to get that your craft across this huge amount of space without just being completely destroyed? Because I mean, there's got to be a lot of debris out there.
Right. And any type of spaceship that's holding human occupants is going to have physical mass. And that's something that even just as simple idea as that is going to mess up the whole thing of trying to build a spaceship. Because, first of all, if we're trying to travel at the speed of light, any mass that we have is going to be directly changed into force or g forces. So a human occupant going in this craft at millions of miles an hour is going to get turned into, a puddle of goo.
How possible do you think it is that a ship, kind of like if you think about Star Trek, they have shields, kind of external, not really physical, but I don't know, they would burn up anything that comes into its path. How possible do you think that is? Maybe if their ship is going through space, they're just burning up the little debris as they come through.
Well, I think that's interesting because if you are going at these speeds, you have created a large amount of force. So something that's hitting you is also going to have to be at a large amount of force to affect you. So if you could harness the energy that you're creating through going at those speeds with a physical mass, then you could technically create a barrier between you and other objects simply on the fact that you have all that force behind you. It'd be kind of like shooting a pebble at a cannonball in mid-flight. It's not.
Right.
But in terms of energy-related shield technology, I mean, that's way beyond any scientists that's around these days. But I think it's definitely something that they're going to have to think about if they ever want to travel beyond our solar system, and you know, especially travel beyond our solar system within 50 years, 100 years.
Right.
Could you imagine going on a trip for that long? I mean,
I think for looking at it at this point, it would take somebody's entire lifetime just to get anywhere. Um, I mean, Mars, we can reach that in what, 5 years or something. I think that's about right. So I mean, there's that, but we don't. There's nothing really substantial on Mars except for exploration. There's no life there. But as for the ETs, one other interesting idea for space travel would be using wormholes, and a lot of people have theorized about black holes being wormholes. But then again, I'm not sure. I want to ask you about this. I've always heard that wormholes. That's my computer in the background. I don't know if that's picking up on the audio. I apologize. But anyway, with the black holes, I've always heard that that kind of reduces the matter. It shrinks it into like the size of a string just to go through this hole. And so, like, if the Earth was sucked into that, we'd all be crushed into this tiny little, thing and go through the black hole. So, I mean, I don't know if a black hole could really be a viable option for, theorizing about wormholes. Is that true?
well, I mean, in essence, it is correct. If something is getting sucked into a wormhole, if you will, or a black hole, uh, it's going to be being stretched out beyond any comprehension of the human imagination. All those molecules are going to be stretched out millions of times longer than they are. But when they go into the black hole, scientists suppose that that material is being compacted down into dense material, which adds to the black hole's power. So what I mean by that is they're feeding on mass to create more gravitational force. You know,
Hmm.
in terms of them being interconnected with another black hole somewhere in another point in space, I haven't seen any type of data or anything that would suggest that, but it's an interesting theory, that I think science fiction has embraced quite a bit. And
Yeah, if we could see the other end where the black hole leads to, I think that would be a huge, huge thing in the field of science. I don't know. I don't know if we've ever seen the other end of a black, maybe a white hole. I've heard of that as well. But I mean, as for the black holes, we always were able to see them because of the light vanishing as it goes into the hole. But we never really see anything coming out. You would think that that would be pretty obvious if we saw. Well, then again, if it comes out, in this string format, maybe it's so small we wouldn't even see it where it's coming out.
and finding black holes even is incredibly difficult. You have incredibly brilliant people, and this is what they're doing to find them. They're looking at star charts, but particularly they're looking at negative, looking for fuzzy stars that are kind of irregularly shaped. And why they're looking for that is because if photons from a sun are passing by a black hole's gravity is so strong it will actually pull that light and deflect the path of the light. So what we see on Earth here is manipulated, and that's how they even have theorized their existence, and also gravitational models. And by the way, not a lot of people know this, but at the center of our galaxy, there's billions and billions of stars just zooming past each other at millions of miles an hour. And as you get closer to the edge of the galaxy where we are, things settle down. And that's because at the center of our galaxy is an incredibly large gravitational force that holds everything together.
Yeah, I've heard something about in that vein about how black holes could be the one thing holding everything together. I mean, the the push and pull effect, I guess. I don't know. And let's see, getting back to space travel, the one other thing I've really heard about was kind of the I don't know what you would call it, maybe the vacuum effect, where basically you have your ship, which is stationary, and you somehow vacuum space or pull space toward you. So think of space as your bath rug, and if one end of your bath rug stays put, you grab the middle of it and pull it toward you, and it bunches up. You jump over that part of the bath rug that's pulled up. So essentially, you're jumping through space rather than trying to go through it the long way, traveling all the way across your bath rug, the normal way. You just jump across that one section, and that would get you a huge distance, really fast. But again, that's just a theory, and who knows how that would work. I mean, I'm not qualified to talk about that really. I don't know if you have any input into that idea.
Oh, I mean, I definitely have some input into that, and that brings up personal experiences in my life. If you're watching this or listening to this, I mean, then you probably are wondering, about mysteries of life and stuff like that. You've probably had strange experiences you can't explain. Well, I have too. You know, I've seen UFOs twice in my life, and once was incredibly clear that it was something strange. The other time it was ethereal lights and whatnot, and stuff in the sky that was too far away to be absolutely sure. But one time I saw a metallic disc, and the way they maneuver, it's as if they've completely conquered gravity, which got me thinking about how you would do that. And honestly, the technical aspects are beyond me. They're beyond probably anybody on the planet right now. But at some point, these beings, if that's is what it is, they have conquered gravity. They can literally levitate an object and make it massless so that they can travel at extreme speed without having negative effects on passengers. And a lot of physicists have theorized, and you reminded me of this, Jeff, by bringing up the whole envelope in front of you, the warp thing. Is they've theorized that they have some type of generation of a warp, like an envelope around the ship,
Hmm.
which is making these gravitational effects. So it's almost like putting yourself in a vacuum and making yourself weightless, but then somehow being able to have a propulsion system connected to that so that you can fly around in the physical world where there's gravitational effects and them not affect you. And so what does that mean? That means we don't have things like inertia. And for those that may not know, what inertia is when something is traveling at a velocity and has a vector, and then it tries to change that vector, you get a g-force, and that makes you heavier. And at the kind of speeds that we're talking about with space travel, that would kill you. So could you imagine going millions of miles an hour inside the cockpit of a craft and not feeling anything? Because that's something that they would have to do to be able to do what people say they are doing, which is coming from here, from other star systems in the galaxy or in other galaxies.
That actually is a really interesting idea. That almost has to be the way that they're doing it when they actually are on the planet. I mean, because creating a space within a space, that that almost has to be the answer. Otherwise, I mean, I know I've heard a lot of things about the theory of relativity being called into question as of late, but I mean, who knows? That's something that you could talk about all day and never really understand it completely. I mean, if you look at science now, a lot of it is just a theory with facts conveniently placed around it to make sense of everything. And, it's constantly being proven wrong and sometimes constantly being proven right. I mean,
Well, an interesting fact about science that I like to bring up with anybody, especially somebody that's religious or somebody that's highly scientific, is that neither one can prove the other wrong, and there's a reason for that. Um, Let me know when you find the reason, because then that's the answer. I don't have the reason, but you can't prove that God doesn't exist, and you can't prove that He does, or she, or whatever you believe. You know, the, honestly, in my opinion, being a person that's, into science but also has a spiritual background in my life, is they need to come together so that people are not bound by ideas or belief systems. Like, for example, creationism and Darwinism. If you are so wanting to disprove the existence of God, when you see creatures that are different in the fossil record, yeah, you want to say that they evolved. Well, not a lot of people are talking about this, in my opinion. What if creatures did evolve? What if the universe did all start from a Big Bang? Maybe science is all right about that. Maybe, using quantum physics and, all these relativistic theories that they have, maybe they can figure out the exact second that the universe came into being, but they still can't explain why it did.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I think one interesting idea is that this God creator is the one who created the Big Bang to begin with. Maybe that really is. Maybe Genesis had it right. Maybe that is the moment that everything came into existence. But we'll never know. I heard one great quote one time. I don't even know who said it, but they said that the moment that science starts taking spirituality as science and looking into it seriously is the moment where we figure out the questions of the universe, the answers of the universe, really.
To conquer time is to conquer travel, not to conquer speed. That's just overall that what I want people to take in from this is we can go the speed of light, which physicists say is theoretically impossible for many reasons we don't have time to discuss all of them. But if I can conquer time, I can do anything in a second. Just think about that.
Time travel really could be the answer as well. I mean, some people have even theorized that the Greys are actually humans from the future that time traveled back here, and by that point we have all these technologies. So maybe there is no other life in the universe, and maybe we're just humans visiting ourselves. But I don't know if I really trust that theory a whole lot. I mean, I guess you could look at it that way, but I don't see why we would evolve even smaller and totally hairless and turn gray and with the big black eyes. I don't know if we would have to go underground and there'd be some sort of nuclear fallout that would cause us to be like that, lose all our hair. I mean, as you've probably noticed, humans over the last couple centuries have been getting substantially bigger. Actually, I mean, we're still growing as we speak, and I think that's partially due to all the hormones and the steroids and stuff in the food that we eat now. But as a race, I don't see us getting smaller, and the only reason we would have those big black eyes is if we were in total darkness all the time. So, I mean, maybe the aliens are coming back to save us from some sort of nuclear apocalypse. They do seem to have some sort of a natural curiosity about the nuclear facilities. I mean, the government has had countless encounters at these nuclear plants with the aliens and UFOs. I mean, there's several that are really good. One that came out of Great Britain, I don't know, 40 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I definitely agree about that is, if the alien phenomena is real, then it definitely had something to do with our nuclear program. At some point, sightings just started to accumulate all over the world out of nowhere. And it's interesting that you bring up grays and stuff because, I want everybody that's listening to this to look up the first instance of somebody reporting seeing a gray alien. And it's actually interesting because they were a young black couple. And I think it was like,
This wouldn't be the Betty and Barney Hill case, is it?
yeah, Benny and Barney Hill. That's exactly right. Yeah, and supposedly they're credited with being the first people to report an actual sighting of these creatures that really nowadays have become the face of the alien abduction phenomena. They're what everyone's talking about.
Right. Definitely look up that case if you get a chance. Also, the Travis Walton case. That was also one of the greatest sightings and abduction cases of all time, just because of the sheer number of witnesses. I mean, I think it was 5 or 6 loggers who actually were out in the woods with Travis when he got picked up. And he still does. I mean, the past few years he's done more interviews. After it originally happened, he was pretty quiet about it. I mean, And that again should tell you something, that he was quiet for so many years because it was such a traumatic event in his life, as you can imagine it would be. But we're here at the end of the podcast. I want to thank Carl for being on the episode. We're going to come back with him in the very next episode and continue talking about the Greys and their possible interest in our nuclear facilities, as well as the alien creator god issue and whatever else comes to mind. So we will catch you next time on the Grim Times podcast. Check us out on www.thejeffjarmanshow.com. I am at JeffJarman55 on Twitter, and check us out on YouTube as well. Stay tuned.